Hey y'all, it's Katie. Welcome back to you from my vanity and welcome to a monthly makeup review for October. I have got a lot of products, so per usual I'm going to try to keep this intro very short and sweet. I want to clarify and say that these aren't really like my favorites, fails, and just okay products out of my whole collection. These are just specifically talking about the products that I used this past month out of all the products, which if you watch my Shop My Stash, you'll see which products I was working with this past month. But out of all those products, these are my favorites, my fails, and my just okay. Anyway, just want to clarify that, but let's just go ahead and jump right into the fails from this past month. So let's start with the Bronx Colors Magic Foundation Primer. I did not like this. I think I got it for like $3. You know, it is what it is, but I just find that no matter what kind of foundation I would put on it, either light coverage, full coverage, very matte, more natural finish, it looked terrible and it didn't wear well throughout the day, and that just is a deal breaker for me. I feel like anytime I wore this, when I would put it on, it almost felt like it wasn't a sticky primer. You know how you can put some primers on and it makes your face feel sticky? It was slightly like that, but it was more like a sticky, greasy feeling. It was very odd, and I was kind of like, okay, like maybe this will help my foundation last longer because it'll give it to something to stick to. No, it just remains that feeling even after you put foundation on it, and then because you have this under your foundation, no matter what foundation I used, it would just come right off as soon as you touched your face. It doesn't settle into the skin, it just kind of creates a layer on top of your skin so that anytime you touch it, it rubs against anything like that, it just whoop, right off. Do not like it, do not recommend. Okay, so moving on, I have the Ulta Beauty HD Full Coverage Liquid Foundation. I had really high expectations for this product, but I don't like it. I have it on my face today, and along with the issues with wear time, I feel like it's just, I struggle so hard to get the tone, the undertone in my foundations to match my neck. I'm like warm tone, but I'm a little olive. I'm not yellow though. It's a very hard mix. I feel like 99% of the time when I have a foundation or I buy a foundation, I can get it to match me color-wise, but the undertone is 99% of the time off. Anyway, moving on from that color difference, I did not like how this wore because I felt like it just, once again, almost sat on top of my skin. It says it's a full coverage foundation, so I was like, okay, you know, full coverage can sometimes feel heavy. It feels heavy, it feels like a mask, it looks like a mask, it comes off extremely easily. Even with a good primer to help keep my oils from breaking through during the day, it still will lift off if I like touch my face. At the end of the day, when I would take my makeup off and I'd look in the mirror, I always kind of try to get up close to a mirror at the end of the day to kind of inspect and see how everything wore. And my foundation would be breaking up really badly in areas, specifically around my nose, around my mouth from like wiping it with food and stuff like that, and around the lower parts of my cheeks where my kids touch my face. But on top of that, I could go like this and it would just take the makeup off there. And even now, like before I sat down to film, I kind of tested it a little bit, and it's not taking it off yet, but it's definitely disturbing the makeup a lot. And I've tried this with different setting powders, I've tried this with different primers, I've gone through all the different ones that I grabbed in my everyday, you know, Shop My Stash. Nothing has helped this, so I don't like it, and I'm gonna check and see when I bought this, because if I can return it, I am gonna return it. So another fail was the BH Cosmetics Contour Palette. So I had really high expectations. I feel like I've heard some people mention these contour palettes and saying that they're really good. I did not find that to be the case. Now, a couple issues I have is that this is such a large palette. It has, what, 10 shadows? My issue is that I could use these two. Never really wanted to use the pink under my eyes, but all these contour shades, I only use this and maybe this. Like, these were too harsh. This was too red. There was a lot in this palette that I did not reach for. I just couldn't use. And I don't know, you know, everyone's different, but for me, if I can't use at least half of a palette, it just doesn't make it worth it, even if it's super affordable. On top of not being able, like color-wise, not being able to use more than half of this palette, when I would use it, I felt like I had to work extra hard to blend it out, because just the first place I would kind of set it down and go to blend, it would like make a weird streak and then not want to move, and I have to sit there and really blend, 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 blend. It would eventually work out enough to where I thought it looked decent, but there were more than a handful of days where I just didn't like either the color of my contour or bronzer or the way it blended out. It just didn't blend as nicely as I wanted. Really bummed about this. I was expecting and hoping for great things, but did not enjoy it. It's not gonna hang around in my collection. So next up, these probably were the biggest disappointment from this month, because I purchased both of them with my own money for full price, expecting them to be amazing, and they weren't. It is the Too Faced Liquid Glitter Eyeshadow. they're not as good as Stila. So I bought them thinking that they would be as good as Stila. They are definitely far no. I actually put, so on my eyes today, I put the lemon, I have eyeshadow underneath, but then I put this Ice Queen in the center, and then for my inner corner, the icy part, I used the Stila Glitter and Glow in Diamond Dust. And I don't know if you can tell, but I can definitely tell in person that the glitter on the inner part, which is the Stila, is a lot more intense. It's more reflective. It gives more of that glitter shine than the Ice Queen from Too Faced, which is the blue. The blue is a lot more scattered in its glitter, and I think that's the issue I have the most with it, is that it's just so scattered. You really have to have a base under it or it would just look kind of weird and stupid. Whereas the Stilas, it works better if you have a base, just because Stilas they don't have a lot of color to them. It's almost like a clear base with a ton of glitter, but because it has so much glitter, it's super reflective. You almost couldn't tell if you just wanted to put this over a bare skin. But with this, you would definitely be able to tell. It would look terrible because you would have all sorts of streakiness going on. You would have like a lot of glitter in one spot, not a lot of glitter in another spot. I tried applying this so many different ways. The first time I just tried to slap it on. That didn't work because you have to use this with a shadow underneath. And when I tried to just slap it on with the little doe foot applicator, it kept moving the shadow underneath. I can't remember how many layers I had to put on top of it to try to fix the hole it was making. Wasn't a good experience. And so I tried to use a brush, like a little pencil brush, but even that was too precise. I tried to use a big flat just eyeshadow brush. That was the best way I found to apply this. Your finger also worked better. Like that's how I would fill in any hole, because pretty much no matter what brush I did, there was always one spot where it just wanted to lift the color underneath it away. I would take my finger and just pat it over and that would make it work. But oh my goodness, is it a struggle to get these on looking nice on your eyes. And then on top of that, they have so much glitter fallout. Even with the glitter glue underneath, they still give an ample amount of fallout, but without a glitter glue, oh my goodness, I had glitter all over my face by the end of the day. I looked ridiculous. So 1-2 strikes, you're out. I was super bummed about this. And once again, I'm gonna check my Ulta receipts and see if I can return it, because I love that this is blue and I love this really unique color, but they're going to be a pain to use, so I'd rather try and see if I can find variations for this with Stila and buy them, because at least then I would know I enjoy the formula when I wanted these colors. So yeah, this was a big bummer for me this past month. I was super bummed that this didn't work out. So next up, I have the Rimmel London Wonderfully Real Mascara. This one I had high expectations because the wand looked pretty neat. It's just a thin wand that kind of has longer spikes at the end. It is a rubbery kind of plastic tip, but my issue with this is the formula is extremely sticky and thick. It's not nice to put on your lashes, especially if you try to go in with just this. That's what I did the first time I used this, and oh my goodness, I had to work so hard to try to not get like 3 lashes poking out of my eyes. It was just clumping them together so badly, and it's because it's such a thick formula. It just kind of grabs your lashes and squishes them all together, and then as you're like brushing through trying to separate them, it just really doesn't want to. I was able to get some good use out of it if I used it over another mascara that helped separate it. Then this definitely gave a lot of inkiness to it, a lot of volume to my lashes, but alone, definitely no. And then after that, even though it was fine and it worked well on top of another mascara, it's incredibly hard to get off. And maybe this would be good for special occasions, but it was just such a pain to get off. And no matter how long I spent trying to get my makeup off at the end of the night, I feel like the next morning I could still like pinch my lashes together and like get off like chunks of mascara. It's just such a tough formula. I think it's because it's so slimy and sticky and thick. It just doesn't want to leave your lashes. So for those 2 reasons, it just wasn't my favorite. So yeah, overall it was a fail for me because I didn't never want to reach for it. Then last up for the fail category, I have the Profusion, I don't even know what this is called, but it is a 3-set lip kit. Comes with a lip liner, liquid lipstick, and a lip gloss. I've tried this a couple different ways. I've tried it with just the matte liquid lipstick. Like, I like to wear my matte liquid lipsticks, and it's just okay. It's pretty drying. It's a tad bit sheer, so I had to apply 2 layers, but it's just okay. It doesn't have fantastic lasting power though, so it wasn't my favorite. Lip liner, I'm not gonna comment on much because I don't know much about lip liners, but together I really didn't like it. I felt like it was extremely thick and drying on my lips, and I mean, this was pretty drying, but it was fine by itself, but paired with it, it looks so much worse. It accentuated the lines so much worse. And then last up, I tried them all together. Oh my goodness, it was horrible. It was so gunked up and thick on the outer corners of my mouth. I couldn't get this off my lips fast enough. Overall, this was just a fail for me, and I can't say that I recommend it. So now let's move into the OK products. I actually don't have too many, but the first one's going to be the NYX HD Studio Photogenic Concealer. This was just okay. Like, it wasn't impressive and it wasn't terrible. I saw on Pinterest a lot of people saying this was a good dupe for the Naked Skin by Urban Decay concealer. Absolutely do not agree with that. I think if anything that this is a dupe for, it would be the Maybelline Fit Me. I wore them a couple times, one on each eye, and they wear pretty similar, but I still think the Maybelline is better. But comparing this to the Naked, absolutely not. The Urban Decay Naked Skin gives a lot more coverage, and even the Maybelline gives more coverage. This has just got such a medium to light coverage. I just wasn't too impressed. It lasted fine. It settled into my lines a little bit by the end of the night, but nothing crazy enough for me to be mad about. So I'll finish it, I'll use it up, I'll get good use out of it, but it wasn't anything impressive. It was just okay. Definitely don't think it's a dupe, and yeah, I don't think I'd ever repurchase this. Then I have the e.l.f. liquid lipstick, and I was almost, at the beginning of the month, I was like, I am putting this in the fail because it is terrible. And it's not terrible. So if you have anything like I have on today, like a really glittery or metallic eyeshadow look, I would not use this because it does not like to go over thicker formulas or reflective formulas very well. It's an extremely thin sheer formula. So if you try to put this over this look, which I don't have it on today, but if I did, I would have to apply at least, I would say 2 to 3 layers. I mean, it's sheer. That's the best way I can describe this and the best way I can sum up my review. It's just a very watery formula. It's not crazy watery. You can get it to work if you want to spend the extra time. It is affordable, but for me, I have such a good one with the NYX one. It's no comparison. But with that said, if I ever did a very matte look or a look that had very subtle shimmer on the eyes, then I would use this and I would get away with 1 layer, and then I'd probably have to go over 1 or 2 spots just to fill it in a bit more, but overall it worked decent. Okay, I struggled with where I was going to put this because I feel like it's such a controversial topic right now, but I'm going to put it in my okay category because it wasn't a fail, but it wasn't a favorite, and mostly wasn't a favorite because of the color selection in the palette. So anyway, let me just tell you, it is Makeup Revolution's The Emily Edit The Wants palette. So as I said, this isn't in my favorites category, but honestly it's mostly because of the color selection and just because of how soft all these colors are. I've been super into more color and more shades that pack a punch, and I've just like the Hasina 2 I'm going to talk about in a little bit. They're just, I like playing with fun eyeshadows, and this, while it was very nice, it just didn't blow my socks off with pigmentation or the colors I got. The looks that I did with this, I did really like, and I really enjoyed it, and the reason I'm not calling this a fail is because they do blend. Now I feel like the controversy with this palette is that they aren't super pigmented and they have to build up, and a lot of people I saw like kind of complaining that people trash Jaclyn's palette for being a little sheer and having to build up, and then people aren't trashing Emily's when her palette also is a bit sheer and has to build up. And I did want to input real quick and just say this because I feel like everyone's missing the most obvious reason. When Emily released her video and when I listened to it, I heard her when she described these eyeshadows as calling them buildable. Several times she called them buildable. Her swatches, I feel like, were very honest swatches. They weren't anything crazy. They weren't anything out of this world pigmented. She called these shadows very buildable. She called the shimmers very soft that you'd get more intense with wetting your brush or something like that. I feel like she stayed very true to what her formula is, whereas with Jaclyn Hill, we were told that they were pigmented, that they were so intensely creamy, that they were just had so much pigment in them. We were shown swatches that were out of this world pigmented, like they look like subculture pigmented. So I think that's where a lot of the issues come between the 2 collabs, because they were released relatively close to each other, and I feel like Jaclyn Hill's collab got a very different response than Emily Noel's collab. That's something that I wrote down in my notes because it was something I really did want to say. I even wrote down, I forgot, I wrote down an example of like, so like say I'm heading somewhere and it's 10 minutes away, but I hit a bunch of traffic and it's just stop and go, and I end up getting there 5 minutes late. It's only 15 minutes. What's the big deal? But it still upsets me because it's 5 minutes that I didn't expect. I'm having to sit there in traffic that I didn't expect to have to deal with. I can get, by the time I get to my place, I can get a little mad, little heated, just like I'm over that car ride. And I can get in the car the next day and drive somewhere that's 15 minutes away and there's no problems. I don't mind being in the car for 15 minutes because I got in the car expecting to be in there for 15 minutes to get to my destination. Whereas the day before, I expected to be in the car for 10 minutes, got to my destination 15 minutes. I hope that's a good analogy because I feel like that's a really accurate one. I don't know about you, but I get very upset sitting in traffic. So I was thinking about the other day when I was in traffic and I was like, you know, Katie, like this is only adding 2 minutes to your time. Like, why are you getting so upset? But I realized it's because it's 2 minutes. I didn't expect to have to sit there, and I don't like having to sit there when I want to be somewhere. And I feel like that's the same way with the Jaclyn Hill and the Emily collab. Jaclyn hyped it up to be this one thing, and then we were met with all this kind of like, not resistance, but like traffic, like, oh, like we have to spend a little longer time blending. Oh, we have to pack on and add more and build it up. Or, oh, we have to be really careful with the shimmers, that sort of thing. And that's what we didn't expect. Whereas with Emily's palette, at least for me, after I watched her video, I went in expecting to have to build it up. I went in expecting to get, you know, soft shadows that I could build up. So anyway, I'm done with that rabbit trail. We're going to leave the drama where it is. Let's just talk about the palette. I thought this was a very nice palette. And one thing I will say, I like this palette much more than the Bad Habit formula because I can build and top these shades on top of each other. I can warm this up into my crease and kind of bring it high up. Then I can put this into my crease and kind of bring it into my outer corner. And then I can deepen it up at the very outer corner with this shade right in here. And you can see all those colors. You can see that gradient that I like to get in my eye looks. So because of that, I give this palette a thumbs up. When I did my Stila brand brush review, I commended her on giving us a neutral palette that had a lot of color. This isn't a palette full of 50 shades of brown. She gave us a lot of variety, as much as you can in one palette, as much as you can expect from one person to do with one collab. So overall, I thought this was a nice palette. I really have no complaints other than I'm just not personally attracted to the color story, which is why I put it in my okay category. I know a lot of people mention this, but like if you go like this, like it's not the nicest quality, but again, I think this is like a $20 palette, so keep that in mind. It is a really big mirror, so as long as you're not really rough and bending at it, it should stay in just fine, and if it does come out, you can glue it, which, I mean, I glue my e.l.f. brushes back together all the time because they detach from the ferrule, so you get what you pay for sometimes with these things. But overall, I am super happy for Emily. I really don't have a lot of complaints. There were a couple shades, corduroy especially, that wanted to kind of catch and be a little patchy, but that is to be expected with greens. I feel like greens in general, greens and blues can be a little patchy and difficult to work with. But overall, I'm very happy for Emily. I was excited to try this out, and we're gonna stop talking about that now because I think I've talked about that for 10 minutes. Next up, I have the Rimmel London Magnif'Eyes Spice Edition palette. And I'm putting this in the okay categories kind of for the same reason as the Wants palette. It's mainly for the color story. Actually, the formula blew me away. Now, I have tried Rimmel London's eyeshadows before. I can't remember which one it was, but I was not impressed. There were like, if I remember right, there were like 2 or 3 matte eyeshadows in the palette. They weren't that pigmented. The shimmers weren't that impressive. I just remember trying it several times, not liking any of the looks. They all felt watery and blah. And so that's kind of what I was expecting when I reached for this. But oh my goodness, like, Rimmel. I know I don't usually swatch, but like I was so impressed with how these swatch. Not only how they swatch, but how they look on the eyes and how they work on the eyes. Like, they're pigmented. There's no denying it. When I would grab this on my brush, I think the first time I used it, I grabbed this thinking I would get a super light wash of color because, like the previous palette I tried from them, it looked dark in the pan, but it's like super powdery and just not pigmented on the eyes. I grabbed a bunch of this and went in, and it was like, well, bam, pigment. I was just like, whoa, where did this come? And then I grabbed this white shade thinking it was like a sheer kind of a sheer matte white, but oh my goodness, you pack that on the inner corner, it gives a really blinding, beautiful highlight. I was very impressed with it. And overall, all the shades, they were really pretty. I'm sitting here praising it like it's a favorite, but the reason it's not a favorite is because of the color story. But again, I can't really fault it for that because, like, if you see this on the shelf, you know what to expect. So I feel like if you are wanting a palette like this, if you wanted the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette, but like I said, it's in the okay category, not for quality, because I thought the quality for Rimmel Cosmetics, this is the best eyeshadow I've ever tried from Rimmel London. I'm super impressed. I thought it was amazing, and yeah, I'm hyping it up like it's Lorac. It's not Lorac, don't go in expecting that, but there is pigment. It does blend nicely. It creates really nice eye looks. I was very impressed with it. If you like the color story, if you like the colors in this palette, I don't think you can go wrong with it, so that's what I'm gonna say for that. All right, let's move on to favorite. Let's do the concealer. This is the Milani Retouch and Erase Light and Lifting Concealer. Oh my goodness, this is pretty darn awesome. I feel like in regards to like how I view primers, this is right up there with the Urban Decay Naked Skin. It doesn't give me as much coverage as the Naked Skin, but it sits just as nicely on my skin. The sun's leaving me. It wears just as nicely throughout the day. It looks nice. It does not settle into the lines under my eyes. It's beautiful. I wish it had more coverage. That's like my only gripe with this. But if I use this and I use my Becca Under Eye Brightening concealer, or just like my pink tone, salmon tone concealer underneath it, and then went in with this, I feel like that's enough coverage. I really enjoy using this month. Oh yeah, I did pull the little squishy thingy off of it because it's so annoying, because this is a squeezy tube. You have to squeeze up. So I would go to squeeze it up and then it would kind of fall on the little pushy thingy, and it would harden between this and the actual cushion, so then it would have like a hard knot. So I just pulled that whole thing off. It was really easy. I just took my tweezers and now I don't have to worry about the product hardening. I can squeeze out just how much I want. I just put on my finger now and then swipe it on, so it's fine. But yeah, that thing was annoying. But anyway, overall, love this concealer. Really do like it, and I'm excited to have it in my collection. All right, mascara. This is the Covergirl Flourish by Lash Blast Mascara. This is a really nice mascara, and it's one that I was reaching for every day. This was kind of like my starter mascara before I went on with any other mascara over top of it. I like this to separate and just define my lashes. A little bit of length, not too much there, but it did a beautiful job of separating and giving me very fluttery lashes that I could then go on with another mascara on top and really bulk it up and give it a lot of va-va-voom and deepness and inkiness to the lashes, all that sort of thing. But this was very nice to separate. Didn't do anything crazy besides that, but it was a nice first, kind of like a primer mascara to me. It worked really well. But anyway, yeah, I did really enjoy this, and I will continue to use it, and I could see myself repurchasing it afterwards, because I always do like to have this type of mascara in my collection to kind of be the first step in my eyelash routine. All right, let's talk about the Pixi by Petra Glossy Gossamer Duo. Oh my goodness, I knew I liked Pixi highlighters, but this formula, wow. I just can't get over how beautiful this is, no matter which side I use. And I feel like if you look at it, like, this looks really dark, but when I use it on my face, it doesn't look dark at all. It gives a lot of light to my face, and I love it. I can't remember which video I wore it in. I will link it up here, but I wore this in that video, and I really piled it on, and it made my skin look wet. It was so intense. And even in that video, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll like this highlighter, because it's just so intense. It makes my skin look wet, and I really don't like that. I don't mind it for video because I do enjoy it coming through on camera a bit more, but for everyday, that's just not my preference. And I found out that I can put this on a lot sheer, a lot light, with a much lighter hand, and it looks a lot more natural, and it still gives a really, you know, really beautiful glow when you turn your head. So I liked it for everyday, and I liked it for recording on camera. And in either case, it never kind of sat on top of my skin. Like, I was really impressed with how beautifully, like, it just gives so much shine. I'm trying to think back to their other formula that I tried. I feel like it's different. This definitely has an interesting texture, because it almost looks like I have hard pan, but I don't. I don't know, it's very interesting. It's not a cream, but it's not a powder. It's really unique. I've heard some people say this is a good dupe for the ABH Amrezy highlighter that they came out with. Like, the formula is close, and then one of these shades is like a very close color. So look into that if you want an affordable option. But I was blown away with how beautiful this looks on top of the skin, and on top of that, it lasts all day. I put this on in the morning, no matter if I go heavy or if I go light, like super light for just an everyday glow, I still see it at the end of the night, and I think that's impressive. So yes, this blew my socks off this month. And let's go ahead and just talk about the other highlighter palette. I tried the Face Candy Unicorn Glow Highlighting Palette. I got this from Shop Hush, and I've finally gotten around to trying it out. It's one of that really interesting color selection, so I was really intrigued by that. I think this is supposed to be a dupe for one of the ABH glow kits, but this really impressed me. Now, for some reason, I was expecting to get a lot more glitter results on my face than I actually did get. So I was really surprised and impressed with that. I have this on my face today. I actually put, if you would believe it, I put this blue one, Celestial, on my face. And while in person, you can definitely tell there's some type of icy blue shift, for the most part, it just looks like a beautiful highlight. Like, in person, no one would look at me and wonder, why does she have a blue smudge on her face? Like, you don't see that in person. It just looks like a really blinding highlight. So I was really impressed with that, and I like that about it, because I can wear all these, pretty much all these shades on my face, and it doesn't look weird. But if I'm wanting to kind of complement a look, like today I have the blue look, so that's why I went with the blue highlighter. I feel like you can kind of tell, it kind of ties the look together. I enjoy it, but it's nothing like, why does she have a streak of blue on her face? So I appreciated that. The only shade that I feel like I can't really get away with as easily is this purple one, because it does give that kind of a gray cast to your cheekbones, but still, that's one shade out of 6 that I don't use. I use 5 of them. I've told you this before, but if I can at least use half of a palette, it makes it more worth it in my eyes. And in this case, I'm only not using one. I have used this. It is nice. I tend to use it more as an inner corner highlight, just because I feel like I can get away with it better. But if I'm doing an all purple look, I like it. Maybe it's just me, but I like to kind of match my face with my eyes with my outfit. That's just my thing. I enjoy it. I think it's fun. So I love having this palette in my collection. It is affordable. Face candy is not expensive. So I would say if you were wanting to get an ABH glow kit and you wanted to get the one that this dupes specifically, give this a try because I've been really impressed with the formula. It lasts pretty darn nice. It doesn't last as long as like the Pixi or some of my high-end ones, but you can still see it on your face at the end of the night. It's a little bit less, but you can still see it on your face. It's a tad bit powdery, so whenever I go in with my brush, I always made sure to tap off the excess just so I didn't make a mess all over my face, and I think that totally solved the powdery issue problem because I never really noticed it poofing off everywhere. So that would be my one recommendation. But yeah, overall, this was a huge hit this month. So next up, let's talk about the Hasina 2 palette from Blush Tribe. I totally blame this purchase on Amy Loves Makeup. She did some looks with it and totally sold me on it. I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. It was just beautiful. And when I first saw this initially on Instagram, I don't know why, but for some reason I was just like, ooh, like that has a lot of blues and purples. I'm not into that. But now that I have it in my hand, like there really is only 2 blues. And you know, there's purples, yes. I don't mind purples as much as blues. Like blues, I have them on my eyes today, but it's just not my favorite color to work with. I purchased this and there's a lot of greens in here. So I was very happy about that. And when Amy pointed that out, I was like, you know, that's very true. There really is only 2 blues and then like, what, 6 greens? The formula itself is really, really nice. They are very colorful, so I feel like this should go without saying, but you have to go in with a really careful hand when you're blending it and using this in your crease and stuff like that. Or I felt like if I wasn't being careful and just kind of going into ham, I could get a little intensity in my eyeshadow and then have to spend a long time blending out. But I found that as long as I was careful going in with a little at a time, I could blend it out beautifully in my crease. The purple, I feel like I got a little bit of patchiness with on the outside at one time, but it was something that I just kind of had to go back in a couple times, pack on some more color, and it was good. And I feel like that's not too uncommon for matte purples. Overall, I really did like this palette. I only used the blues ones because you guys know I'm not a blue girl, but they were fine. The greens is where this whole palette is for me, and the greens in this palette are fantastic. And yeah, I'm really impressed with my first purchase from Blush Tribe, and I can't wait to try more from them because they know how to do a colorful eyeshadow palette. And thank you, Blush Tribe, for putting more than 2 greens in your palette because I feel like that's all everyone ever does is like, here's 2-3 greens and you're done. Next, let's talk about the NYX Machinist Grind palette. This palette kind of just like oozed out there. I feel like there was a little bit of like, ooh, new palette, and then I just didn't see it anywhere. And when I posted my eye swatch video of this palette, I had a lot of people commenting saying like, how have I never heard that this was a thing? Like, how have I never heard this new launch? I had so much fun creating looks, and I can't wait to see how this compares to the Subculture palette. I'm going to be testing that out in this next month and doing a duper dead, so stay tuned for that. But I think it's fantastic. The one drawback to this palette that I do want to throw out there as a con is that these shadows, whenever you put down the initial shadow, if you try to go on top of it with another shadow, it's not going to want to stick as well. That was just a little con. It's not huge though because it still does stick. It just takes a little bit more work, and the shadows all blend well. They're all super pigmented, so you almost don't need to put a lot of colors because they're so pigmented. They're kind of remind me of Subculture. You just put them on, blend them around the edges, and you have so much intensity. I really did like this palette. Yes, it has a couple cons that I just mentioned, but what palette doesn't have cons? I feel like that's something we have to remember, is that any palette that I try, I don't think I can think of one palette that doesn't have at least one con, and it just depends for yourself what is important and what cons matter to you and what cons don't. So for me, the cons that I mentioned in this palette don't matter to me, or they're just not a big enough deal for me to not enjoy using this, and the looks that I get from this palette far outweigh any kind of issues that I have to deal with, you know, doing the looks. So that's why this was totally and absolutely a favorite of mine from this month. So next we have the NYX, another NYX product, the Glitter Goals Liquid Eyeshadow in Polished Pinup. I'm going to be doing kind of like a liquid glitter roundup because I have been on a hunt to find a dupe for Stila's formula, and there has yet to be an accurate dupe, but I want to do a video just sharing all the liquid glitters that I have that I've tried and their pros and cons, because depending on your preference, you may like one or not the other. But anyway, this is beautiful, and this is honestly the closest dupe I've found to the Stila Glitter and Glows. The only difference is that this, while it is gorgeous and oh so reflective, the glitter in here is a lot more fine, so it almost comes off as a shimmer. So depending on what you like, that may bother you or not. The reason I love Stila glitter and glows so much is because the glitter is so chunky, so intense. There's so much of it. Whereas this, like, yes, it gives you a ton of reflectiveness on your eyes, but when you're actually in person, you can't see that like glitter chunkiness as you can with this one. And that's what I like. You definitely have to wear a base or a glitter glue underneath it or you will get fallout. But even with it, this fallout, because the glitter is so fine, is not as noticeable as with the Stila glitter and glows or the Too Faced. But overall, still love this past month. I have the Flower Beauty Warrior Glitter Eyeshadow, and this is in the shade Camo. It's a green. I had to get it. Once again, it's that formula that is more of a cream shadow with very finely milled glitter thrown in here. So if that's your thing, I think you will like this. This is something you definitely have to wear a glitter glue underneath, but with the glitter glue, it pretty much solves any kind of falling out issues. So I was glad to see that. But while I think this is beautiful and I absolutely loved wearing it this past month, I think it just looked so beautiful on my eyes. It definitely isn't a dupe or a replacement for my glitter and glow from Stila. But the formula is nice. It has a lot of actual color to it, where like the NYX one, it has some color but not a lot, and then the Stila glitter and glows are pretty much exclusively just glitter pigment, not a whole lot of color to them. This Warrior one is definitely more heavily color-based. That's why I almost call this more of a cream shadow than a glitter. It still gives you a lot of reflectiveness, and when you get the fallout, it definitely is glitter falling out on your face. But once again, same story as the NYX. They're so fine, you almost don't see it until you get really up close in a mirror, and then it's just kind of like right here. It's nothing too noticeable as you're moving and talking throughout the day, but I thought that it was gorgeous. I loved wearing it. I really did like this formula. I thought it was really nice. It wasn't a dupe, but with that said, I feel like I'm repeating myself. I don't mind having it, and I really did enjoy trying it out this month. Okay, so we are done. I am parched. My throat was hurting. I've been talking for so long. I hope that was informative for you guys. I know these get so long sometimes. I get a little carried away in my Shop My Stash, and I just pick out so many new products to try out, and then I just want to share them all with you at the end of the month. So I do apologize. I know these are very long, but thank you so much for sticking through to the end and for hearing all of my thoughts and opinions on these products. Let me know if you've had any experiences with any of the products mentioned in here. Let me know if you'd like me to change up my monthly makeup review. I kind of had a thought this morning of maybe just picking like five of my top favorites, 5 of my top fails, and 5 of my just okays. Maybe that would help shorten these. Do you care that they're always over 30 minutes at this point? Let me know that too, because if you guys don't mind them to be long, I do enjoy just kind of giving you the standouts from my collection and not limiting myself to a certain set of number. But anyway, definitely let me know your thoughts down below. It's just something I'm milling over right now, so I figured I would throw it out there and see what you guys think. But with all that said, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye guys.